Welcome to the Darkstream, Vox Day, voxday.net, and unauthorized.tv. Thanks for tuning in. I am just going to get the chat going here. Usually I get it going first, but I had neglected to do so. So there we are. All right. 7 folks already on board. We are good. As you can see, your Dark Lord's favorite colors are black, dark black, pitch black, pastel black, light black, and faded black. So glad we got that straight. Meister likes a shirt. It was actually a Christmas gift, if I recall correctly. So very apropos. Anyhow, I'm not sure why the lights are so dark in here, but c'est la vie. Anyhow, today I'm pleased to say we're doing an impromptu stupid question day. Didn't really have too much to discuss. I did promise a stream tonight. We're going to do the stream tonight. I did fix the Disney souvenir song that I pointed out the problems last night. So when we close, we can show you how we fix that one. I think you'll approve. I'm still waiting on the Vibe Patrol Masters for Why I Never Called and for Cosmic Trigger Freak Flag Mix. So looking forward to getting those out soon. I'm also on Instagram now, and you might say, Vox, you're not a Generation Z girl. Why are you on Instagram? And the answer is pretty simple. I got like 9,000 views, and people paying attention to Castelia Library, people paying attention to Soul Sigma and that sort of thing. So it's like, okay, Space Bunny was right. I really do need to figure this system out. One of the problems, though, in figuring out the Instagram system is that they change it fairly often. And also, apparently, I'm the only person who uses a computer with it. Like, everybody else seems to use their phone. And so they'll tell you how to do things, and then you can't do them. I mean, you literally can't do them. So it was kind of funny. It can be a little comical when you're, people who use it all the time are like, just do this. And you're like, I literally can't. They're like, oh, you just don't know how to do it. And I'm like, no, that option literally is not there. So just ran into a few of those today as well. But I even created a Facebook account. Again, I had an old Facebook account, but I have no idea how to get it working or anything. So, but I had to make a new one because I was trying to get this link tree thing working, which a lot of people have, right? All these people have link trees. Oh, this is where the links are. So, but you can't do it unless you connect a Facebook account, which for some reason I wasn't permitted to do. And they even said, well, it's our fault, not yours. Okay, great. But then it turns out that apparently they've deprecated Linktree anyhow, because now they've got a direct linking system that they built into it. So, which literally nobody who uses it has said anything about, because I don't think any of them know about it, because they already have their link trees set up. So anyhow, I'm not a big fan of these social media platforms for many reasons, but probably I'm most offended by them as a UX designer. So AI could never take humans' place on Stupid Question Day. Maybe here. Okay, here we go. Let's do this. I'm going to go ask my new best friend. You might know him as DeepSeek. I'm going to ask him for some stupid questions. So let's see, shall we? Got to log in here. I mean, it's not like you guys have come up with any stupid questions yet, have you? Okay. Hey, my friend, do you have any stupid questions for me since it is stupid question day? And the response: happy stupid question day, my friend. Here are some gloriously silly questions to celebrate. Okay, so I don't know. DeepSeek is more than willing to participate here. Okay. If you try to fail and succeed, which one did you actually do? You tried to fail and you succeed in failing. Then you actually failed. I think you actually failed. No one who tries to fail is, I shouldn't say no one. It's rare that anyone trying to fail is really trying to fail. They're usually using that as an excuse to cover the fact that they tried. So I would say that if you try to fail and succeed, you failed. Although it's a little unclear, because I'm assuming that means if you try to fail and succeed in failing. But maybe if they're asking if you try to fail, but you fail to fail and instead succeed, which one did you actually do? Well, in the former case you failed, in the latter case you succeeded. So here's one from Nibmeister. Do you think the Zionists will successfully genocide, ethnically cleanse the Palestinians? Yes. We've seen, ever since the Nakba in 1948, we've just seen the constant, continual spread of the settlers, of the formal state of Israel, the unofficial state of Israel, and so I think that they will ultimately be successful in that. I don't know how much longer it'll be before the Arab world decides that they just need to roll the dice and deal with the problem. Clearly this sort of state of war, not war, hasn't really been terribly successful in containing the Zionists attempting to establish Greater Israel. So, but let me back up. I think they'll be successful in doing it to Gaza. I think that there will be war before they really get around to the West Bank. DeepSeek has another question. Why do we say tuna fish, but not beef mammal? Because tuna is a proper name of an actual fish. A tuna is a fish. A beef is not a mammal. Ironworker Bear says, will the U.S. housing market ever deflate? Yes, but it might do so in terms of a different currency. The dollar is going to continue to become worth less and less, I think. We are seeing debt deflation. If they could just print, they would, but they can't. And I think we're going to see it deflate after the U.S. goes bankrupt. So when that will happen, I don't know. It could be tomorrow, could be in 10 years. How awesome was Trump's press conference with South Africa? Very. It was an excellent example of the triumph of rhetoric over dialectic. What's interesting is that the press, when Trump goes rhetorical, the press immediately goes dialectical. So they're trying to correct him and falsify everything that he said. Well, yes, I mean, they say thousands of farmers have been killed, but it hasn't been verified, and it's probably false. I mean, they treat something that Trump says the exact opposite of the way they treat everything that everyone else says. So, for example, if Elon Musk just waves his arm in the wrong way, that's definitely a Nazi salute, and that means that Elon's a Nazi and Trump's a Nazi and Republicans are Nazis, and it means all these things, right? Because he waved his arm. Meanwhile, the leading politicians in South Africa are literally singing a song together at a political rally, singing "Kill the white man, kill the Boer," and they're like, well, it's not official government policy. So, I mean, it just demonstrates what a completely biased, completely dishonest, and completely false narrative is being pushed by the media. I mean, I literally, if they, it doesn't matter what they report, if they report an airplane crash, I doubt it. If they report a basketball score, I doubt it. Does backing crypto with the dollar elevate the dollar to gold status? No. If so, what status is good then? I don't. What? There is no good status for the dollar right now. So, let's see. If a word is misspelled in the dictionary, how would we ever know? Quite easily, because the dictionary is just one of many, many sources for us to see how words are spelled. Can you cry underwater? Yes. Crying is not just about tears coming out of your eyes. I mean, you can have tears coming out of your eyes for reasons that are not crying, and you can cry without tears. So, this is actually a bit of a puzzler. Why is there no mouse flavor cat food? I don't know. I have no idea. You would think that, I mean, I guess I would say probably because cat food is marketed to women, not to cats. If we're correct in assuming that cats like cat food, or that cats like mice because they like the way that mice taste, as opposed to just they happen to be small things that are regularly there for the hunting, I think that cats would probably prefer mouse flavored cat food. But I think we can be pretty confident that that's not something that the average cat-owning woman is comfortable with. If you're waiting for the waiter, aren't you the waiter? Sure, in one context, but waiter is a term with multiple definitions. And so if you look in the dictionary, the aforementioned dictionary, where the word may or may not be spelled correctly, then you will see multiple definitions. One of them is a person who waits, and another is a person who waits on or serves other people. So if you're waiting for the waiter, aren't you the waiter? In the one context, according to the one definition, yes. According to the other, no. So it depends. Why do we drive on parkways and park on driveways? That is puzzling. I have no idea. That's actually, it would actually be interesting to dig into the etymology a little bit and see why we ended up with those terms. My presumption is that driveways used to be a lot longer. We have a long driveway. You have to, it's literally a driveway. And so maybe it's because of that. Powers That Bear observes, Vox's responses are more AI than AI. Yeah, it is kind of funny. Chuck Dixon occasionally gives me a hard time about that. We'll be discussing, plot, and we'll be discussing various things, and he'll just be like, that's a little bit too coldly calculating. Let's maybe not go there. This person is supposed to be the hero, not the villain. I'm like, okay. So, thoughts on the Final Fantasy series? Never played it, never had any interest in it, have no thoughts on it whatsoever. Pillow Vendor, however, reports that the Final Fantasy VII remake was not what was asked for. Fair enough. Skydog says, howdy folks, look at all the comments, must not be a music stream. It is kind of funny how there's like a very small number of people who have an interest in like the music that I'm doing, and like practically everybody else, including like all my friends and family with like 2 exceptions, like negative interest in it, like none whatsoever, which ironically has kind of been the case since the Psychosonic days. I mean, my friends were always very positive, about things. They came to the album release party that we had at the first single release party we had at the Perimeter, when we played at First Avenue, or we played at Glam Slam. People came generally, but I've told the story about how my dad had so little interest that he asked me if I'd ever done anything with the keyboard that he'd bought me like 4 years before. And I went on this relatively long, dry, and very sarcastic explanation of how I was leaving the next day to go to Chicago to finish the mixing of the album with my band that had been signed to a record deal, and that we had used that keyboard to help make that music. And his reaction, it was so funny because it was positive. Like, he was genuinely pleased. He's like, oh, great. He was happy that he had supported me in that. But the fact that he had no idea about any of this, despite the fact that I had probably told him each thing as it had happened, it was kind of comical. I mean, if you ever wonder why I don't care about approval from other people, there's your answer. It's not a big mystery. People react in one of 2 ways to a lack of approval. And by lack of approval, I don't mean criticism. I don't mean disapproval. I mean literally just a void. And some of my brothers, they reacted by becoming approval seekers. For me, I just don't look for it. Anyhow, it's kind of comical. I personally I shouldn't. I know I shouldn't, but I do take a little bit of perverse pleasure in just like being enthusiastic about it, regardless of what anybody else thinks. But the thing is that, like, nobody cares about, if you think about it, nobody cares about most of my hobbies. Nobody cares about, nobody ever cared about war games. Nobody cares about ASL, and so, and I don't care about a lot of the stuff that people really care a lot about. Like, what am I? Am I a Delta Bravo? Like, Like, that's what they're interested in, and I'm not interested in that. What Umberto Eco book would you recommend to someone who's never read him? That's very easy. You've got to read The Name of the Rose. It's his first book. It's probably his most accessible book that is also good. Numero Zero is very accessible, but it's not particularly good. Why do only some people remember lyrics to a song? I think that a lot of people, the lyrics just kind of wash over them. I don't think they pay much attention to them. And so to a lot of people, the voice is simply just another instrument. And so asking them, oh, what are the lyrics to that? They tend to see it as like, it's like asking them, so what were the notes on that guitar solo? I mean, they have no idea. They're not paying any attention. But the lyrics are absolutely a fundamental part of the song. I mean, granted, being a lyricist, I tend to think they're important. But as people using Suno have discovered, that actually dictates the vibe of the music that's produced. It's more important than the prompts. So, and I think that's it's a valid metaphor for the importance of a song. If you completely change the words of Stairway to Heaven, or even just like look at Weird Al Yankovic. He's playing very similar music. He's trying to sing in a similar style, and yet it has a very silly vibe because he always puts silly lyrics together. But the same would be true if he put tragic lyrics together, or if he put romantic lyrics on an unromantic song. It will change, even if it's sung in the same way, it'll change the vibe. I think Coddington Bear put up a thing on Instagram. I think it was yesterday, and it was the national anthem, but sung to the tune of Black Hole Sun. Very different vibe. Hard Return says, finally got around to updating new payment method. It was easy and seamless. That's great. That's good to hear. We really need to get everybody back on. We're probably going to turn the paywall back on in a couple weeks here. So it'd be good for everybody to get subscribed and get going again. We're not going to do it until we get the payment alternative going for the Europeans first, obviously, but it will be coming eventually. So happy to have everybody here, whether you're subscribed or not at the moment, but please encourage everybody to get onto the new payment system and get subscribed. Powers That Bear says, does Taleb's linguistic pontifications make him an anti-Semite in Florida? I don't know what you're referring to, but I have absolutely no idea, or I have absolutely no doubt that because he is an intelligent iconoclast, he has probably managed to cross that line at some point, with the caveat that anti-Semite no longer means someone who hates Jews. It means someone who Jews hate, and so, or even don't approve of. So, I mean, at this point, you're an anti-Semite if you're not doing business with Israel. Now, I am doing business with Israel, so you would think that would clear me, but probably not. Anyhow, if you're not supposed to eat before swimming, does that mean swimming counts as a meal? No, obviously not. That's a particularly stupid question. How do you know if your pet's a psychopath? Well, if your dog lacks empathy, presumably. Powers of Bear said he read a blog of Taleb's that had a risky definition of Semite. Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is, Taleb is the sort who would be like, well, a Semite means that someone who lives in this particular region and, you know, because of the European background. you can just see that. How long does Canada have left? Not very. I mean, the rate of importation of people from China and India means that it's going to become a province of one or the other, or possibly divided into two, or maybe even three, where maybe the US gets a part, China gets a part, India gets a part. I mean, who knows? But I mean, Canada has always been a country that has survived because people couldn't get there. You know, Americans had no reason to go to Canada, except maybe in pursuit of non-existent girlfriends. And, you know, so there was Canada, you know, prospered despite having suboptimal left-leaning governments for a long time. But now with, you know, jet travel and easy open borders and mass immigration, it's not capable of surviving. So, I mean, that's, I think, one reason why Trump is talking about acquiring it or part of it, because he knows it's not going to survive. How high can silver and gold go, judging by history? Probably at least 5 times higher. As measured in dollars, anyhow. More or less than 10 years. I would assume less than 10 years. Will Pagite deportations follow South American deportations? Eventually, yes, but it's going to be a little bit more difficult because there's a lot of high-placed Indians in all the tech companies, and they will do absolutely everything they can to not have to go back to their own country. What are your thoughts on Martin Armstrong's financial predictions and his Socrates program? I don't have enough information about it to have an opinion. I've read a few of his predictions. I respect, you know, what he does, his general track record and perspective, but I don't pay enough attention to it to have much of an opinion, to have a relevant opinion. If tomatoes are a fruit, is ketchup a smoothie? No. You know, there's more to a smoothie than just crushed fruit. I mean, that's part of it, but it's not the whole thing. So anyhow, go ahead and keep coming up with some more questions. Go ahead and post them. We're going to now go and join the music stream part of the stream. Last night, we did a music stream and I talked about 2 of the problems. Well, I talked about one of the problems. There were actually 2 problems with the mix of Disney Souvenir, which I had created by using the persona that I took from the Cosmic Trigger Freak Flag mix. And the problem was, it began with in a very similar way, very similar vocal, very similar beat, even a similar keyboard riff, just for the first 12 bars, I think it was. And so it might have been 16. Anyhow, what I did was respun it, replace that, and I think you'll agree that this is actually better for this particular song. I liked the way it sounded before, but it sounded too much like the other song, right? And then the other thing I didn't like was I'd originally had a line playing off the Disney thing about how you know, Donald Duck and Daisy. and that just didn't work. It was kind of lame. And I'd already had a Harry Potter reference, so I thought that would be a good one to bring back in. But the version that I had, it didn't flow quite properly. So I replaced that, and I think you'll agree that that line now flows much better. So anyhow, keep posting your questions. You don't need to wait. We'll come back and I will address them after we give Disney Souvenir the Princess Mix a listen. So this is going to be a Vibe Patrol release at some point. And here we go. Oops, I got to turn the sound on first. That would be useful, wouldn't it? There we go.
I see you walking down past the city lights. You're the thunder rolling through my stormy nights. I'm a songbird singing, but you can't hear the tune. I'm standing in the sun and you're howling at the moon. Why don't you see me? I'm right here, waving my heart like it's just a souvenir. I could write our names for everyone to see. So why don't you ever turn and look at me? I wore my red dress just to catch your eye. And if you don't notice me, I think I'll probably die. I'm a Harry Potter, you won't even read. You know you're missing out, but you don't know what you need. Why don't you see me? I'm right here, waving my heart like a Disney souvenir. I would write our names for everyone to see. So why don't you ever seem to notice me? Am I just a shadow lost in someone else's shine? And what do I need if I'm gonna make you mine? Tell me what it takes for a princess in disguise to make you see what is right before your eyes. Can you imagine just how cute we could be? You'll be Ron Weasley, I'll be Hermione. I'm a mermaid singing, but you're shipwrecked at sea. You're kissing all the frogs, everybody but me. Why don't you see me? I'm right here, waving my heart like a Disney souvenir. I would shout your name for everyone to hear. So why don't you ever notice when I'm near? Why don't you see me? I'm right here, waving my heart like a Disney souvenir. I would write our names for everyone to see. So why don't you ever turn and look at me?
So that was Disney Souvenir, the Princess Mix. Skydog says baseline is good improvement, and Powers of Bear says can definitely hear the progress in this. Yeah, it's I'm happy with it. I mean, especially for a song that, frankly, I didn't really even care about doing. I was just really doing it as an exercise to see what 4.5 could do, and turns out it can do quite a lot. So. Powers of Bear said if the bass had more bass, it might be ready for a club. Yeah, it's not supposed to be a club monster like Cosmic Trigger. I mean, Cosmic Trigger, you can actually imagine playing in a big club. This one is more of a pop girly song, which is fine. That's what it's supposed to be. I mean, that's how it started out. It just ended up going a little bit more club, just because, honestly, that's kind of where I just naturally go to when I don't really have any specific idea in mind. Obviously the Soul Sigma stuff doesn't go that way. The Byronic stuff doesn't go that way at all. But for Vibe Patrol, I mean, my background is, I was a denizen of the clubs back in the day, and even in my writing, that's something you wouldn't notice because it doesn't show up in epic fantasy. But in science fiction, one thing I always have to be careful of is that the way that some writers, like, if they don't know what to do, they always like, oh, we have to go get something to eat. I have one of the tendencies I had to overcome was I don't know what to do next, so we should obviously go to a club and get a drink. Write what you know, right? So Q1882 said, I would love a stream showing how you create these. That was literally yesterday's stream. If you're go look at 1227, it actually shows the progression of the song we just played. It shows the progression of it from the very beginning through like 4 iterations, and then what I just played there is the 5th iteration. How much sleep do you get on average, and has that changed as you got older? I was getting less sleep for the past couple of years. I always went, when I was younger, before we had kids, I would usually sleep from like 4 to noon, or 4 to noon, 5 to noon. So I'd get like between 7 and 8 hours of sleep, and I'd get up around noon. And then once we had kids, that had to change, and so I started getting up earlier and going to bed earlier, although that was tough. Now that the kids are older, I kind of, my natural, just if left to my own devices, no other influences, that sort of thing, I'd probably get 6.5 hours sleep, go to bed around 4. But I'm trying to, I've been reading about the health issues and how it's really actually important to get at least 7 hours and better to get 8. So I'm trying to do that. I was doing really well for a couple weeks. And then Suno 4.5 came out, and I'm back to 6 hours or less. But I am working on it. I think my initial burst of creativity is now satisfied. And so I don't feel the need to be like, I should just, what if I tried this, or what if I did this? I've done enough of that I don't think it's, I can get to bed at a reasonable hour now. Where will Russia shift its focus after the EU crumbles? Well, Russia's already shifted its focus to the east. That's where it's deriving all of its business. It can't even do any. The EU has made itself irrelevant to Russia. After the EU, the EU has made Europe irrelevant to Russia. After the EU crumbles, I think that Russia will again start doing business with the European countries. But it's just really going to dominate. It's really going to dominate the European scene because of the abject stupidity of the Clown World's European puppets. I mean, everything they're doing is just destructive to their own countries. And some of that's an accident, some of it's not, but either way, it's and it's really depressing in some ways because it's so obviously harmful. It's and then they do these incredibly stupid things, whether it's the COVID vaccines or the sanctions or blowing up the oil pipeline or banning nuclear power and insisting on trying to rely on solar and wind power, and then everybody affects to be surprised 5 years later when it creates yet another disaster. I mean, it's all a failure cascade, and it's not even going to begin to end until the EU falls apart. But we're already seeing Britain trying to undo Brexit. It's just and we know why it is. We're not puzzled. This is the last stand of the global Satanists. So hopefully, between Trump and Putin and Xi, they'll be able to clean it out. Will Poland have to be destroyed? Poland doesn't have to be destroyed, but Poland is going to have to give up its satanic dream. They were among the most based countries in the world, but their knee-jerk hatred and fear of Russia has led them into some bad, has caused them to accept some bad influences and make some bad choices. I remember you had chickens, but considering your sleep schedule, do you have roosters? Yeah, we've got roosters. We got a great rooster. And I am 100% able to ignore him. He doesn't bother me at all. Do you consider Ulysses S. Grant one of the greatest generals in history? No. I think he was effective, but I consider him to be more competent than anything else. Any competent general should have easily won the Civil War for the North. The reason Lincoln loved Grant is because he actually fought. McClellan and some of the other generals, they just didn't want to take the risks. They didn't want to accept the casualties. They didn't want to give battle. They were just afraid. I have no prediction for the Balkans. I know my limits. Serbia is doing the right thing by prioritizing its relationship with Russia over trying to join the EU. Hungary should be getting out of the EU, but there's still too many people that believe the bullshit. But that'll pass. It's going to be very interesting to see what the ramifications are of Ukraine finally collapsing, which should happen by the middle of next year. Might well happen before the end of this year. It's one of those things where everybody knows it's going to happen. It seems like nothing happens, and then all of a sudden it happens overnight. So I think it's going to be like that. But if you paid any attention to the way that the Russians have been talking ever since these ceasefire negotiations started, they don't care. They know that there's no rational parties involved, and so they're probably just going to have to do whatever they need to do, and they're prepared to do that. So anyhow, that's all I've got for tonight. Thanks for tuning in. Tomorrow night is Archaven Nights with JDA, so you won't want to miss that. It's the first one we've done in 3 weeks, and obviously there's plenty to discuss. So I'm Vox Day, and this is the Darkstream.